You ever look up at the night sky, see the moon, and just wonder, what if it was different? Well, today we are going to dive into a thought experiment that sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but you'll be surprised what it teaches us about our own world. We're going to imagine something incredibly beautiful and incredibly fragile. Seriously, just think about it for a second. That familiar, chalky, cratered rock that we all know, what if it was replaced by a perfect, see-through sphere of glass? It seems like a simple swap, right? But as you're about to see, that one little change would alter absolutely everything.
So, the first and most obvious changes would happen right over our heads, in the night sky. Our gentle, predictable moon would be gone. And in its place, something far stranger, and honestly, way more spectacular.
Okay, so here's the fundamental difference. It all comes down to how it plays with light. Our moon, being a big, dusty rock, just sort of scatters sunlight, giving us that soft, familiar glow. But a glass moon? Oh no. It wouldn't just reflect light, it would refract it. It would bend and focus light, acting like a gigantic, perfectly polished lens hanging in space.
So what would we actually see up there? Well, for starters, as the moon passed in front of distant stars, they would warp and magnify, like you're looking at them through a giant magnifying glass. And if you caught it at just the right angle, its surface would become a flawless mirror, showing a tiny, perfect blue marble reflection of Earth. During the new moon phase, when it's between us and the sun, it would be almost totally invisible, a ghost in the sky. And the crescent moon? Forget that soft sliver. It would be a razor-thin, brilliant curve of captured sunlight, glittering at the very edge.
But the full moon, that's where things get dangerous. Instead of a gentle nightlight, a perfect glass sphere would focus the sun's rays into a single blinding point of light in our sky. We're talking about a cosmic spotlight, so intense you couldn't even look at it directly. It would literally turn patches of the night into a bizarre, localized daylight.
All right, let's zoom out from our view on Earth and talk about the moon itself. What would this thing actually be? Because its very substance would be fundamentally different from rock, and believe me, that difference has some massive, massive consequences. So at its core, glass is really just silicon dioxide. Yeah, basically the same stuff as sand. But the key is its structure. See, in a rock, the atoms are all lined up in a nice, neat, orderly grid. But in glass, they're a complete mess, a jumbled, disorganized chaos of atoms. That amorphous structure is what makes glass see-through, but it's also what makes it so incredibly brittle. So let's put them side by side. You can see the shift from crystalline to amorphous. But the two numbers that really matter here are density and brittleness. A glass moon would be way less dense, which means it would have a lot less mass. And, maybe most importantly, it would be incredibly fragile. And that fragility, well, it brings up a pretty terrifying question, doesn't it? Space is a shooting gallery. Our moon gets hit by meteors all the time, and it just gets another crater. But for a glass moon? Yeah, the outcome would be a little different. Okay, so here's the deal. When a meteor smacks into our rocky moon, all that energy is absorbed right there at the impact site. Boom, you get a crater. But on a brittle object, like a perfect glass sphere, that impact energy has nowhere to go. It travels, instantly, giant cracks with spiderweb across the entire surface. A big enough hit wouldn't just make a crater, it could shatter the whole thing into a cloud of glittering cosmic debris. A shattering moon is a pretty dramatic thought. But even if our glass moon managed to stay in one piece, the change in its makeup would have huge effects right here on Earth. And the biggest one of all would be gravity. Hey, remember that lower density we just talked about? Well, this is where it really starts to cause problems. If you have a moon, the same size, but it's made of less dense glass, it's just going to have a lot less mass. And since gravity is all about mass, its gravitational pull on our planet would be much weaker. And the most obvious, immediate effect of that weaker gravity? You'd see it in our oceans. The tides would be a shadow of their former selves. That whole familiar rhythm of high tide and low tide, all driven by the moon's pull, would just fade away. So why should you care about weaker tides? Well, for one, countless marine ecosystems in our tidal zones would just collapse. But it gets worse. Those tides help drive global ocean currents, which are basically our planet's thermostat. Change those, and you get massive shifts in the climate. And maybe the scariest part? The moon's gravity acts like a steadying hand on Earth, keeping our planet from wobbling too much on its axis. Without that stabilizing force, our predictable seasons could disappear, making Earth a much more chaotic and, frankly, hostile place to live. So, from a bizarrely beautiful sky to a shattered moon and a chaotic climate, it's a pretty wild journey. But asking these big what-if questions isn't just a fun little game. It actually has a really important purpose.
You see, by thinking through what would happen if the moon were made of fragile glass, we're not just messing around with ideas. We're actually learning to appreciate why our real moon is so important. The fact that it's made of solid, dense, stable rock isn't just a random detail. It's a critical piece of the puzzle that makes our world work. It reveals just how delicate the balance is that allows for life here on Earth.
You know, there's this great quote that just nails it. Thought experiments are the laboratories of the imagination. We can't actually go out and swap the moon for a glass one, obviously, but in our minds we can run the experiment, and we can see the results. It's an incredible tool for understanding the complex universe we live in.
So, our glass moon thought experiment teaches us to appreciate the moon we've got, but it also opens up so many other questions, right? What if Mars had oceans? What if Earth had rings like Saturn? The universe is just packed with these fascinating possibilities. Each one is a brand new laboratory just waiting for our imagination. So, what thought experiment are you going to explore next?